Great. By these discussions, it sounds like you have learned a ton. And there is more to come. We are not finished yet. So this time, we will move into the space of schools and how we will how we will teach and learn sustainability. And we're going to start with two of the Icelandic youths who were part of the big Icelandic youth conference that took place in 2023. So I'm very happy to give the floor to two students, Margaret Unnur Olafsdottir and Anita Taylor, that will present learnings from the conference and how to become change agents.
Thank you.
On you go.
So, do you hear me? All right. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for having us here.
We are Margret and Anita from Iceland, and we are here to represent all who got the fantastic opportunity to attend the youth summit called Young People and the Future, Education for Sustainable Development, held from the 1st to the 3rd of November of last year in Varmaland in Iceland. I am 22 years old, and I'm in my second year as a nursing student at the University of Akureyri in the north of Iceland.
And I am 20 years old. I am an undergraduate bachelor student in geography at the University of Iceland. Yeah, so the conclusions from this very informative weekend we participated in are clear. And the youth from the Nordic countries want knowledge. Knowledge is power, and it is needed to tackle sustainability issues. We also want sustainable changes, and knowledge is required to make such changes. Another important point was that it is necessary to create open and safe spaces for dialogue, to involve the youth in these discussions and to listen what we have to say, as was this conference that we attended.
The big topic discussed during the weekend was the need to better integrate sustainability into education and into the curriculum. Our conclusion was to have a sustainability subject in school, that is, to start a mandatory class about sustainability, as it is an important subject that can and will safeguard our future. We also want to educate the teachers about sustainability because they will need to have a deepened knowledge of these issues to be able to teach the students about the topic. Lastly, it is important to give students more power in deciding the curriculum and involve them in determining how sustainability can be taught.
At the end of the weekend, we were privileged to present our conclusions to the Minister of Education and Children of Iceland, Ásmundur Einar Daðason. We hope that this conference was not only held to make us feel like we can make a change, but that there will be a visible change in how we teach about sustainability and how sustainability is integrated into school curriculums. To have gotten our voices heard and to be given a platform to state our wishes and concerns means so much to us. To know that we are being taken seriously and that we might be able to make just a small change inspires us to keep going every day, working for the change we want to see in the world.
And when we think about the future regarding these matters, we want to see more of that. More platforms and opportunities for young people from all over the world to connect and to get their voices heard. At least we think it's crucial for us young people to be a part of decision being made that is impacting our future. We must get a say in the matters concerning us and our future. Now, we will show a video that was made which shows bits and pieces from the conference.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
In November of 2023, 80 young people from the Nordic countries gathered in Iceland to discuss sustainable development. This is what the youth thought about sustainability education.
I think it's important to learn about sustainability because the world we live in right now isn't sustainable.
Like there are people around the world that are actually fleeing their homes because of flooding or environmental changes.
And sustainability is something that is quite complex to understand. And so I think it's incredibly important to educate, especially young people, about sustainability, because we're the ones who have to live with the consequences.
when we hear sustainability, we think like, oh, theme week once a year, and like, yeah, you see some videos online.
Because in my school, it has just been one day where we get someone on stage to say there's a pollution problem, and then the next day is just a regular day.
I would want sustainability to be integrated into the curriculum. So it's not only theme weeks or workshops, but it's like a mandatory course, and you have to learn about sustainability to graduate.
It's very nice to be here, like around a lot of engaged or active young people.
I feel like I've learned a lot being here just for 2 days.
You get to be a part of changing something, and you get to be a part of learning it in a different way, and you meet other people, and you get to travel, and you have fun, but you're also learning at the same time.
Wow. I mean, wow. You have nailed it to the point with everything.
Hopefully in the future we will have a meeting where youth and ministers from the Nordic countries meet at the same time. That would be the exact way of working with young people. But it takes small steps to change things.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Margaret and Anita, I think you deserve another round of applause. Now you've gone on stage, but thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for being future change makers, for sure. From students to adult learning, I will now invite our next speaker up on stage, Henrika Norin from Nordic Network for Adult Learning, and she will share her insights from the latest research. Hi.
Thank you.
And perfect.
Thank you. And also very interesting to be here today. As a lifelong learner, I have got so many insights today when I've been listening to all the contributions and all the projects that's been going on. And it also resonates very well with the two former presentations that we had on culture and on youth, because that's something that we came up in our project also, that we need to listen to the young people, take them in, and we also need to be imaginative. But let's start from the beginning. I'm representing NVL, the Nordic Network of Adult Learning, which is a network organization under the Nordic Council of Ministers, or Nordic Council of Ministers are funding the NVL. And we work with adult learning, so one of the projects has been the ownership of our network. And here on back of me you can see the Nordic vision, and I think NVL puts the Nordic vision into action. Because actually, we don't need more strategies. Maybe we don't need even more policies. We need more action. And I think that's what we are doing in NVL and also in our project. That just had its last meeting 2 weeks ago. So we don't have all the research results yet done, but it will be coming during this fall and also disseminating in the early next year. So here, first of all, we had participants from 4 different Nordic countries and also from very different learning sectors. We had the vocational adult sector, we had the higher education, we had an NGO, we had folk building, and we had also a vocational school. And this was very good because we had a very diverse group. And one of our findings are that to really come up with the solution, we need to work in cross-sectoral and also in groups that are very diverse. We wanted to find out that can we come up with a Nordic model on how to work with sustainable development in our learning institutions or educational institutions. And I have to disappoint you. We don't have a model. Because a model is too restricted, and one model doesn't fit all. So we more believe that it actually has to come from the bottom and up and from the needs in the local institution or the local society or whatever. So there is not one solution or one way of doing things, but we do believe in collaboration. And then the other thing we wanted to look at is how can we involve all the stakeholders in this work? How do we work with the leadership in organization and on organizational level at all? How do we work with the teachers and with the students? And we have the recommendations that we now have done. It's more like on a policy level, not so much for how the teachers can work with this. And here is just, I'm not going to go into this more, but as I said, we're going to have different results coming up during this fall and early next year. But okay, the first one I already said something about, the diversity and the cross-sectorial transdisciplinary way of doing things. And that's actually what's happening here today also. We are from different sectors, and that's why it's been so interesting for me to hear what you all have said, because it resonates very well what we are doing in education. But from a different aspect, and that broadens my mind and my view on sustainability and what we have to do in the future. Then we need to talk about systemic thinking. I think, like I always explain the sustainable problem or the problems with the sustainability as a fish net. Like if we go and touch one part of the fish net, it will shake the whole fish net and affect a lot of different things. And that's why systemic thinking is so important, because that's the holistic way of looking at. Everything is relation and connected to each other. So if we pollute the air, or if we get parts of the world that gets underwater, those people will flew from that place and come maybe to the Nordic countries, because we still live quite well here. That will make for us to change and also pressure on our way of living. So that's something that needs to be done also in the education. We can't look at silos in education. We need to have the holistic approach. And what we, of course, as a Nordic project where we had participants from all the Nordic countries, the collaboration between the Nordic countries in education is very important. That's how we learn to understand each other more. And coming up with a global solution, or a solution for a global problem, we need to have a dialogue with each other. Also with the young people, as you heard earlier. Then another thing that came up in the results where we need to give the educational institutions and the teachers more freedom to act. Now we have curriculums that there's probably something said about the sustainable development or how to work with sustainability in the schools, but it's on a paper level. And then we have a curriculum that is filled with a lot of stuff that needs to be done. It's too much. We need to make the whole education sustainable. We need time to sit down and reflect and be critical and involve people from different sectors. Also those who doesn't like the way we are doing things. So that is also very important. And then another thing was that to take the teacher's role of knowing it all to a co-learner. We don't have, as educators, all the answers. And again, when we work with our students, they might have a lot of knowledge that we don't have. And when we put those kind of together, all the knowledge together, then we can come to new insights. And that's what, I was very interested in the cultural aspect of sustainability, because we need a lot of innovative spaces, spaces where we can be creative and imaginative. So maybe our schools could be more, not so formal, but more like a pedagogical laboratory where we can try new things when it comes to sustainability. And then to the last recommendation that we have on our policy paper, which is maybe not so hard to understand in a Nordic level, the Bildung aspect into sustainable education. We have folkbildning in the Nordic countries, so many of us knows how important it is to become a human being. And that's the and I think today it's more about becoming a human being in a planet and live side by side with the nature and with the organism, all the living and not living organisms that we have on this planet. So Bildung here means that kind of that all the knowledge that we have, use the knowledge to make good. Well, how do you know what is good? Well, that's where we come into the dialogue aspect. We need to have a dialogue with each other. What is good? What is a good life? What is a good sustainable life? And that should be put into our educational institution on all levels. Also the leaders, the head of the organization should get involved in this. And as we call, and many of you know, the whole institution approach, where it's not only sustainable development is not only a technical thing, it's an ethos. It's a value-based thing that engages all the people in the institution. And as a lifelong learner, I see that we have the solutions in the youth, who are the future. We have the solution in culture, because that's kind of the glue, as somebody said, but also in the educational system, because everybody goes through the educational systems during their whole life. And also adult learning is very important, because today we work with the youth, but the adult learning is about the adults learning new things, and adults are the ones who today do the decisions on policy level and on family private level. So I think these are my conclusions. I can see that we are busy to go forward. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Henrika. Is my mic on? Yeah? Perfect. Yes, please sit down in this lovely sofa group, or whatever we should call it, because you will be part of the panel discussion, which is going to commence straight after this, because we will be watching a video, and that video is a video message from Dr. Olafur Patel Jonsson, who is from the University of Iceland, and he will present the results from the Nordic Teacher Survey, which was done 2024. So we will be watching the video, and then after we will have a panel discussion.
The work I am presenting today is part of a larger project, Education for Sustainable Development, which is one of 6 projects that constitute the Sustainable Living Programme of the Nordic Council of Ministers. The aim of the project was to move us closer to sustainability being an integral part of all education for every age from preschool to adult learning. The Nordic countries want all pupils and students in the region to have the knowledge and skills necessary for the enhancement of sustainable development, whether the focus is on sustainable lifestyles, human rights, equal opportunities, culture of peace and global citizenship, as well as the appreciation of cultural diversity and culture's contribution to sustainable living. The objective of the current work was to create a knowledge base on the situation as it currently is in the Nordic countries. To do this, a group of experts in the field of sustainability education was created, with each country and autonomous area appointing an expert in the field. We also included representatives from teacher unions and teacher students to include the voices of current and future teachers in our work. This was all done to ensure the quality of the research work within the scope of the project. My name is Ólafur Páll Jónsson, and I was appointed as the Icelandic expert and was given the responsibility of leading the group of experts. 3 years ago, a group of scholars from the Nordic countries, including myself, completed a work on mapping educational policy and teacher education with respect to sustainability education. The current work took off in a sense where that previous work had stopped. This time we wanted to hear directly what teachers are doing in schools and see how that compared to the international policies and implications from scholarly work regarding sustainability education. The work within the expert group was mainly carried out through online meetings due to the nature of the project, of course. Different points of view have been discussed, good examples of sustainability education from the Nordic region have been presented, and we have exchanged information on the current situation in our respective countries. This has all been done to establish a common understanding of current practices and the challenges that lie ahead. To gather information that could tell us, or at least indicate to us, how the situation is in the Nordic region, we sent out an online survey to teachers in the Nordic region. The survey was sent out in 7 languages through teacher unions in each country. The number of responses, although disappointing, gave us an indication of the current situation. As was expected, we saw both positive and negative things. Perhaps the most positive result is that around 85% of respondents say they are doing sustainability education. This is certainly a high number and is something to be cherished. But what about the 50% that do not consider themselves teaching sustainability? Half of them indicate that they do not do so simply because it's not part of their subject. We find that worrisome. The other half, not engaged in sustainability education, say they lack skills or time. The biggest hindrance to sustainability education was exactly time, due both to curricula that assigns too many tasks to teachers or to other duties that take time from professional development. We have now compiled a research overview, a continuation of the report that was published in 2021, under the title Sustainability Education in the Nordic Countries. The report presents and contextualizes the findings of the expert group. Our findings do, however, not make for a final destination, not an end where we can rest quietly, but must be seen as the first step of understanding what is being done and what hindrances are in the way of moving further towards sustainability. The survey has opened up diverse issues that are highly relevant for continued or even revisioned Nordic perspective on sustainability. Perhaps the only clear conclusion of our work is that it must continue. There are numerous ideas from teachers across the Nordic countries that must be further investigated and distributed. We need to know more about how students are affected by sustainability education, how teaching fast fashion or environmental awareness in schools influences students, consumer patterns, or how a school garden project influences students' food choices later in life. If Nordic countries truly want to be in the lead towards sustainability, we need to understand better what is being done in schools, why things are the way they are, how we can move on, and we need a vision for the future which can guide our ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Jonasson. And now, me and Henrika here will be joined by some very interesting people who will be speaking about the school system. So I'm going to welcome, they're standing in the back here, yeah, please come up. Susanne Hagström Larsson from Nordplus Junior. Robin Smith, who is Vice Chairman from the Swedish Teacher Union. Welcome, welcome on stage. And Christer Holmlund, who is Secretary General for the Nordic Teachers Council. Please give them a hand of. Perfect. Yeah, do you feel comfortable? Is it good? Yeah, you're not going to get up here. I fear this is the same. It's the same for me, I think. I'm not going to be up. Well, it could be a fun curiosity. I don't know if Åsa wants to share this, but I'm doing that now. This whole sofa arrangement is actually from our project manager, Åsa's living room. So I don't know. Right. Bless you. So yeah, I don't know how you did last night there, but yeah. It was, yeah, you were working anyway. Perfect. All right, Susanne, I'm going to start with you. You are the main coordinator of Nordplus, which is the educational program of the Nordic Council of Ministers. And could you maybe just briefly explain a little bit the program's goals and its relevance in promoting lifelong learning and sustainability across the Nordics and the Baltic countries?
Yes, I will start. It is aiming for education from early on, preschool, all the way up to higher education, adult education, and it is for cooperation within the the 3 Baltic countries, the 5 Nordic countries, and the autonomous areas, Åland, Faroe Island, and Greenland. So it's all about cooperation within education. And we give fundings for projects and activities. It could be class exchanges, it could be job shadowing for teachers, it could be students attending a course at another university, for instance. And we have several goals. A lot of them are aiming very large in general. It's about giving quality within education. It's about cooperation in the Baltic and Nordic area, as said. And when it comes to cooperation, it's all about enhancing mobility at the one hand, about traveling, of course, meeting each other physically, but also strengthening the digital cooperation. We also have a lot of goals regarding the interest and knowledge of the Nordic language, specifically the Scandinavian language, and we have the interest and knowledge for our cultures in the Nordic and Baltic area. It's inclusive for all, and it could be different topics that you bring on to this subject. But as Henrika, you showed the vision for the Nordic region, that we should become the most sustainable and integrated region, and you had the priorities set that it lies on with the green priority, the social sustainable priority, and then the competitive priority. And Nordplus works with focus areas. So we promote that the schools, for instance, should work on each of them, either of them. And now we're into the social sustainability part. But as you all know, they're all intertwined when it comes to sustainable development. And it is a global issue. So you should work together and you should start cooperate and you should start early on in school, from the youngest children and all the way out. And since I've been working closest within the sub-program Nordplus Junior, which is directed to the school, preschool, and the vocational education, we see that the most popular theme that they choose to work on since 2018 is a green transition, climate change, and sustainable development, by far. We have 6,000 to 7,000 participants each year, and 70 to 80% of them are pupils. So a lot of youth meeting and discussing this and learning more about these questions.
Yeah, because as to clarify, they can actually choose if they want, but what you're saying is that they choose sustainability, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. So, Christer, you are the Secretary General for the Nordic Teacher Council, and when I Google, I was even surprised. It was 16 national organization, but they represent almost like 600,000 members. right? From 7 Nordic countries and territories. So can you tell me a little bit about what your role or what you do in the council?
I'd rather tell a little bit about the organization, because within those 16 organizations, we have 2 from Greenland, 3 from Faroe Islands, 1 from Iceland, 2 from Norway. I think we have 4 from Denmark, 2 from Sweden, and 2 from Finland. So we represent a lot of teachers or the organizations. And as Henrika told me, it's about collaboration. It's about sharing information. It's about sharing experiences. And then it's about learning, and learning from others' experience and try to put it into their own context. And we don't only discuss pay and working hours. We discuss education policy as well as teachers' well-being. So, and even sustainability. We have had sustainability as a theme on one of our courses 2 years ago.
And because we are obviously at a Nordic conference, could you, obviously representing the Nordics in a bit, could you maybe give us a bit of a Nordic perspective? Does the work and resources differ in the Nordic countries when it comes to these topics, learning?
The resources they differ, but they are poor. They are low level in every country. So there's a battle with lack of funding, lack of time, lack of support. So the education areas is under pressure in the Nordic countries. But even though that is under pressure, I think the organizations and work with sustainability as one of their themes. And even though I think that education policy, it's a national matter, because it's the government who decides on curriculum and so on. So it could differ, but it doesn't differ that much. We do it a little bit different in the Nordic countries. Some have sustainability in subject. Somebody has it as a skill, a basic skill, as a pillar or topic or something like that. But I think in every curricula, there's something said about sustainability. And then it's a way of thinking about, is it knowledge? You just teach in order to get young pupils knowledge? Is it to try to get it to a lifestyle? Because I think we should go from good knowledge to become a lifestyle. Sustainability should be a lifestyle for young people, and even for me as an older white man, as somebody called us earlier today.
Just bring that up in every of the sessions, I think, yeah. But, okay, great. Robin, you...
One such guy to another, right?
Well, we're a majority here, I think, so it's all good. So, Robin, you yourself also work as a teacher, right?
Do, yes.
But you're also the vice chairman for the Swedish Teacher Union. But can you tell us, in your work as a teacher, what is your view on this today? Krista was obviously saying that it's lacking a bit of support. It's poor. Do you agree, or is there also a positive attitude towards needing to put this in the curriculum, or are you just more frustrated?
Well, I definitely agree with Krista. I would say there's a huge positive kind of attitude from teachers and young learners towards these issues. And I'd like to thank you for allowing me to start on a positive note. I think I'm so impressed with my colleagues and how they work with these issues together with students, and the enthusiasm that they have and so on. And I was very impressed when you mentioned Bildung, Henrika, the importance of everybody in society, all ages, in all stages, increasing awareness and sort of making a push for climate action and for issues of sustainability. And I think it's impossible to be a teacher and a parent and not feel a huge responsibility for these issues. And young learners, I would say, are also eager to learn. They're enthusiastic about these things. But I also see that, we've seen so many good examples of students, even at later stages in their student careers, still sort of embracing these issues. But I also see a lot of students as they approach adulthood, how they when they face the adult world, they don't really see how they can act on the knowledge that they have, how they can transform that into real action without too much sacrifice for themselves or the people around them and so on, without losing a competitive edge against the people who just can't be bothered, And I think it's important that we all make an effort to change society, not, beginning with our youngest learners, but that we all, at all stages, sort of commit to a joint effort. Because otherwise there's a risk that if we try and make schools just like the single change makers, that young people, they get into the habit of knowing what to do and saying all the right things, but that we fail to change behavior on a broad scale, which can lead to feelings of regret, stress, remorse, anxiety even, and that's not where we want to end up. So I think this sort of whole society approach to this issue is crucial.
How do you think the gap that you're kind of mentioning, that when students exit the schools and they go into society and then it's not aligned, what would you say? Can schools do more there, or to like have closer dialogues with parts of the societies in order to bridge that gap further? What do you see?
Schools can definitely try and do more, but not, schools alone, I think. It is kind of unfair to pass the buck to the younger generations and schools alone. And we all need to be part of this effort.
School can't do it alone. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Henrika, you talk a lot that it must be like a bottom up, and with the student being like active in their participation, and the teacher's role turning into more of a co-learner with the student. Like, what would you say? Like, how would that happen in practicality?
Yeah, I think it's like, and I just want to comment on the ACT part here, which also came up in our research, that it's very important as teachers that we also think about not just giving knowledge, but also tools how to act upon it. Otherwise, we will lose hope, because we will just see the very dark side of the problem. But about the co-learner thing, is we saw that it's very good if the students are already, when we are making decision and planning the education or the next school year or so on, involve them in that. And also as a teacher, you can involve your students, even if they are adults or younger adults, to come with their knowledge, because we need to be open for what feels good for the students. Usually we know that, okay, what we should teach them on, but actually we should start from the bottom and see, what do they want to learn? What are they interested in? What are the things they are getting engaged in? If we don't get the engagement of the students, no learning is happening. And we talk a lot about the transformative learning, so that the learning is somehow touching your heart. As somebody told earlier today, that we need to feel something that touches your heart. And to do that, we need some kind of embodied knowledge and learning. If it's through art or if it's through meditation, we had actually a very good meditation earlier today, actually, where you can, it feels in your heart what it's all about. Or go out in the nature. So for the teacher to be more of a co-learner, get rid of your role as the know-it-all. Be open, see your student from where they are coming, what knowledge they have, what engagement they have. Go out in the nature, take other people into your classroom, if it's creative sector or whatever. So there's a lot of different things they can do.
Thank you for that. Susanne, you were obviously mentioning before about the collaboration with students and that there is a high engagement. How can students actively contribute to or initiate projects within the Nord Plus program, particularly those focused on sustainability and environmental education? Can they initiate themselves or?
They can't initiate of sorts so that they can apply for funding to do something of themselves, something that they are engaged and interested in. But we have a lot of upper secondary students turning to us directly as an authority asking for what can we do, we want to volunteer, we want to work on this issue, they're really engaged and they want to go ahead. Unfortunately, we are only funding organizations on that point, on that part, but having said that, of course, if they heard about Nord Plus or other international cooperation programs that supports education and on this issue particularly, they can also talk to the teachers and the headmasters and in voice that they are interested and let them know that this is available, please check it out, because we have had that way happen as well, that schools eventually comes to us and apply for funding for a project on that regard. Or if you are in higher education and you are a student and you know about Nordpass and you can go to your international office and ask, hey, do you have scholarships from Nordplus that I could use and go abroad and maybe study a joint study program which regards sustainability, for instance. So there are ways, but they're a little longer approach.
Okay. Before you obviously heard our students, Margaret and Anita, and I thought they were so good that I had an initial idea that I would throw them into the panel, but it just felt a bit too much to just ask them to. But I made them co-moderators with me, so they have a microphone down there now, right? Perfect. Amazing. So we were speaking about breaking the silos before, so now I think we should break those silos straight away. So do you have a question for the panel? Amazing. So you have a microphone there, apparently.
Does
Perfect.
it work? Yes. So, like we mentioned, it is clear that the youth wants a sustainability subject in schools. We wanted to ask if you feel that same necessity for it as the students, and do you think that it is possible to do it on a pan-Nordic level? Yeah.
Anyone want to grab and go, please?
I like the idea of involving youth and students to involve them in sustainability, questions about sustainability. But as a subject or assessment, but because I believe in changing attitudes and actions rather than assessments. So I would like to have a debate about this with you because I don't necessarily believe in assessments regarding sustainability. I rather believe that we should have actions on a school level, on a pupils level or youth level.
And can you develop just a little bit more how those actions could? Do you have an example of that? What that could be, or
There's a lot of things in schools that are not concerned to subjects. For example, the normal living in school, it's a building. How do you use paper, toilet papers? Do you keep it clean? Do you try to save on energy or things like that? There's a lot of things that are not necessarily combined with a subject, more with attitudes and how you do. Try to learn how to do things in practice, sustainability, and keep sustainability in mind, and so on. Yeah.
Someone else wanted? Yeah, there was two. I think Robin was first, but it doesn't.
Oh,
yeah, you can babble it out. Whoever wants to go first,
you go
please.
ahead,
Okay, thank you. Well, I guess I should say that, yes, of course, if you as young people want to, but I will say that can we collaborate and develop that idea? Because I think the problem will still be a problem if it's if it's a subject on its own. Sustainability should be the culture of the educational institution, and it should be value-based, and it's not a task for one teacher. It's the task of everybody in the institution, the teacher, the principal, the students, the one who is in the kitchen, whoever comes into that building. And I think that's why we are failing today. We don't understand that the sustainability is something that goes across everything, and it's more like it's a culture of the organization.
Thank you, Henrika. I think Robin wanted to comment as well.
Well, I knew it was the right move to allow Enrica to go first, because she essentially said what I wanted to say. But I do also, I kind of agree, because as it is right now, sustainability is part of sort of the general goals of the curriculum. And you know how it is sometimes with everybody's responsibility, nobody's responsibility, right? So we want to go from nobody's responsibility to everybody's responsibility. And just maybe there's something to the idea of at least making it someone's responsibility until we get there. So definitely that's where we want to end up, but maybe that's a way of getting there.
Perfect. Susanne, we spoke about your projects before. Like, do you have an example of maybe a project or something where it has advanced sustainability education in what way, or anything that has given concrete results? Maybe, I don't know, involving students, if there is.
I've chosen one because I think it's best to have one really concrete project to talk about, and it's really representative for Northwest Junior. It's a class exchange. It's for upper secondary school, and it was one school in Sweden, here in Stockholm, one in Norway, and one in Denmark collaborating, and they involved 216 participants, mostly of them students, in this collaboration over 3 years. So what they did was take a notice on what the students actually felt. They had a great engagement for climate issues and wanted to make a change. And these were actually change maker schools, for those who knows about them. I won't dive into it because I'm not the expert, but they want to make the world better. That I know. Yeah. And they chose to go about it. So they chose 3 topics. I think it was within the UN goals. They worked on sustainable cities. They worked on youth action for change, and they worked on sea and marine resources, and divided it into these 3 years. And then they had the students work and collaborate in transnational groups. So they worked on solutions on climate issues, and they also came up with ideas for the future. So they were really collaborating, both meeting and through digital devices to come about this. And this was actually during COVID. So they had a struggle. They were supposed to meet physically, but they had to change a lot of it to digital collaboration. And then they finally get to meet, I think, the last exchange that they had. So they did, and the end results was about to be presented or produced digitally. So they made films and so forth on different climate issues and discussed them. And the results of that was, of course, they got to know culture and language, the Nordic languages, and they also got digital competence. They worked on the issues, of course, of climate change and how they were dealt with in the 3 different countries. And then the main thing of it was actually that they learned that they could make a change. They could influence here and now, and they felt empowered by having to think about these solutions and these ideas together with others. And of course, you can do that within your nation with other schools, but it has been said before. It's not only schools maybe collaborating, you might have to use others, resource, you can have universities involved, you can have organizations involved. We have many of you sitting here can be involved collaborating with schools on this issue, because we need to do it together. And they found great result on this particular project involving several students and several classes, of course. But it's one way, and I think what you said about it, you need to create another arena for learning, and just sustainable development is a great way of doing so, because you need to go cross curricula. It's embedded in different ways. It is hard, it's tricky, and the teachers need to get further kind of refill and learn from each other and go to courses and learn more, because it's rapidly changing. It is and it is everybody's responsibility, as you said.
Thank you for that. I'm going to jump to you, but my next question was actually directed also to you, so you can take both if you want. But you kind of mentioned it a little bit as well. What would you say, Robin? What resources are needed? What do you have now even, but what do you need hands-on to do this transition? You mentioned that the resources are not there. What do you need?
The answer is going to be time, but I would like to comment on further training first as well. We asked our members about that in a recent survey, and it turns out that most of them feel that their further training in areas of dealing with sustainability issues mostly comes from the news, the media, documentaries, and such. So there's definitely a lot of work to be done in terms of teacher training. But we also have in schools today a highly motivated, highly trained teacher workforce that don't have the time to do their job well. And I think ultimately that is kind of what it comes down for if we're going to set teachers and students free to really grapple with these issues. It's a time issue. And I mean, if you wanted to make a poignant point, you could argue that teachers themselves are caught up in an unsustainable system, which then ironically prevents them from dealing with a larger issue of sustainability.
So I know that we also have on the agenda to. Was there an applause? Yes, good, well done. Yes. We are also going to touch a little bit on the online too, but I just want to check as well if there is someone maybe in the audience that have a question that are sitting. Oh, I really want to ask the panel a question, but I don't know if I'm allowed. You are allowed, but I don't know if there is any questions. I'm just checking. No. 3, 2, 1, as they do and in the auctions. Yeah, just flag if there is anything. So I want to just also touch on the digital era that we are in and the online tools. What do you see? Like I'm now asking quite openly, and I mean I don't need everybody to answer because we don't have time for that. But would you say online tools makes it easier for adult learning and for teacher, or not? Any views on this, Henrika?
Just like a really concrete example from our project, because this is also a sustainability question, like on climate, when talking about should we meet physically when we are on a Nordic level as teachers, for example, or not. And online is a good tool to use to kind of bring down the climate footprint when we talk about Nordic collaboration or teacher training and so on. But we found out that it's also very important, at least when you start something, when you start to teacher training, for example, to actually meet face to face, because you need to feel those people. You need to not maybe touch them, that could be kind of tricky, but get a mentally touched with the people that you are going to be in training with. And also that you'll kind of learn who those people are. And after that, you can use any online tool you want because you have the safety and you trust the people that you are in training with. So somehow when we are very into this technical and tools that we have and so on, to remember it's when we say when you need to get in touch with nature, you need to be in nature. If you want to get in touch with people, you need to be with the people physically.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We are going to conclude this panel because it feels that we just started. But can I then maybe ask all of you to vision a little bit, like what do you see? How do you see the role of schools and learning changing within the next 10 years, and what is needed to do so, you think? 1, 2, 3. Who wants to go? And you need to be quiet brief, but quiet quick. So yeah. Yes.
I could start with the thing Robin said. We need time. Teachers need time. I think also the students and the pupils need time just to focus on sustainability because there's a lot of there's a lot of the agenda nowadays. So unfortunately, sustainability isn't on the top. It should be on the top.
Perfect time. Great.
And I'd like to echo that and just say that, sort of action really takes time. It's teaching sort of on a more theoretical level based on articles and whatever's in the news. You can do that quite easily, but you don't really get to action then. So and I think that that's really something that I'm going to take with me from this panel, is like the importance of actually doing things, not just talking about them.
Not just talk, act. Perfect.
And I have
Thank
just,
you.
if we could get more into slow pedagogy and slow learning, I think that would be a good thing.
And can you just develop what you mean?
Well, that's actually the time question, to really go deep into something. So instead of all the time having to learn more and more, quicker and quicker, we need to learn basic things in life, as, for example, being a good human being in this planet.
Yeah. Thank you, Henrika. And Hailey, Susanne?
I can echo time for teachers. I think it will change. We have artificial intelligence entering, it's already here. It's a new struggle to just keep yourself up to date with that. How should we assess? How should we teach in the future? I think in 10 years' time it will be different when it comes to teaching, and but I look positive on the future. Maybe AI will solve some time for the teachers, if I say it like that. So you can do good things straight on, and I also believe that you should go back to more working with basic skills and meeting, and not getting wrapped up with all new things that comes your way. Safeguard the schools and the teachers and what goes on there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this panel. I'm going to let you sit there a while, but yes, please. Sit here, and thank you so much for enlightening us on future schools. We are about to just break for the last break, but I have just one more person that's going to come up for a few minutes. So Anna Scaramelini from the Northern Association in Sweden. You just wanted, hi, Anna.
Hi.
You have a school program, right? And you also have a table somewhere?
Yes, just in the back over
there.
there.
Perfect. And your association's mission is to raise the voices of the Nordic citizens, which I thought was very cool, and get them more involved in shaping our joint sustainable future. Can you just tell us briefly how you do that? And speaking about schools, do you also have a school program?
Yeah, of course. Well, just a very brief history lesson about our association as a background. The Nordic Association was founded back in 1919 in Sweden, and soon after in all the other Nordic countries. And it was founded by this movement of people that in the aftermath of World War I saw really the vital importance of standing together, united across national borders to face war, to face different crises. And we see, of course, that importance is still with us today, just with different kind of crises. Like climate crisis is one of them, and just to face challenges together, which is really something that we want to foster. Cooperation to face challenges. And one of the challenges that we identified as an association is the one that was raised by so many people here today, the lack of faith in the future. We saw it especially in the youth in all the Nordic countries, actually, and the lack of creativity and the capacity of imagining a bright future, a positive future. As with the Nordic Council of Ministers Vision 2030 as a starting point, we wanted to try and contribute with a solution to that challenge, but also with another challenge that we saw in the Nordic region, which is the growing gap between all of us, people living in the Nordics and decision makers. So how do we make, for example, these amazing visions, more concrete for all of us living in the Nordics, and especially for children and youth that are most often the voices that are left out in the rooms where decision making happens. So together with teachers and pedagogical experts, I want to mention the Nordic preschool network, Nordisk för skola, and our school platform where we have also teacher experts, Norden i skolan. We have developed in the past 2 years a new material that I hope maybe can answer to some of the questions and needs that we've heard here today. It's material to work in preschool and high school that wants to encourage students both to have deep dialogues about deep topics like sustainability, like safety today, but also wants to encourage them in being creative and creatively express their dreams, hopes, and ideas for the future in the Nordics. A little bit like the postcards that we saw before, but in a lot of different with a lot of different means. So it could be drawings in preschool, but also text and videos in high school. And I just want to mention very briefly the next 2 steps that we work with, which is we collect all of these ideas and thoughts for the future in all these different creative expressions. You can see we get this amazing feed. Well, I don't know how much you see of it, but we have a feed of all these contributions from all the Nordics. So one thing that we really think is important is, of course, you can find creativity and faith in the future in yourself, maybe as we did before with meditation, but we firmly believe that exchange of ideas and perspective across national borders, across cultures, across languages is something that really can help us be more creative, more innovative, and finding this new faith in the future. So by creating this kind of feed and collection from children and youth from all the Nordics that is available then for kids, we want them to explore what different young people are thinking and dreaming of all around the region. And we also collect all of these thoughts and present them in our yearly publication, Nordperspektiv, which you'll find at our table. So you're welcome at our table in a few minutes.
Isn't it just very handy that we now then have a break so you can actually go and speak a little bit more with Anna. Well, thank you so much for enlightening us, and you're going to go back to your table. Thank you so much. So, yes. We are going to take a break again, and please stick around because we have 2 super interesting panels coming up. One definitely focusing on youth. That's going to be very engaging. So coffee you have there. We have a 15 minutes break, and then we'll be back here at 15:20. I will ring the clock.